Greetings, and welcome to the 80 Level Roundtable podcast. In each episode, host Kirill Tokarev invites video game industry leaders to talk about the world of game development. No topic is off limits as long as it relates to video game development. New episodes are in the works, so remember to follow us or subscribe and share with someone you know will also enjoy the podcast.
Thank you guys for joining and kind of sharing your time with us today and talking a little bit about the project that you've been working on. So before we start, can we do like a little intro so you could introduce yourself, introduce your company, and explain what you guys are doing?
Sure. May I start?
Of course.
So my name is Stéphane. I'm one of the co-founder of Capsule Studio. So Capsule is a young animation studio we created 5 years ago now, and we are especially specialized in short animation project for video games like marketing trailers and game cinematics.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I'm Lewis. I'm the facial capture supervisor at DI4D. DI4D specializes in sort of high-end facial performance capture. I suppose more specifically digital doubles, mostly for computer games and films.
Mm-hmm. So let's start talking about the project itself. So it's a trailer for Farming Simulator 22. It's and we'll put it like in the video recording on YouTube so people could have a look and assess it. But overall, it's very nice, very high level. I think like the first time we saw it, it was like a AAA kind of trailer for like a very kind of seems like a niche game. But I guess that was like the intention. So and it features a lot of humans. So it features a lot of CGI characters, which were basically digital doubles, as you said. So can you explain like what were the main goals of the trailer? What were like the technical difficulties that you faced when you kind of talk with the client and figured out that's the direction where you want to go?
Yeah, so the clients for us and who ask for the project is Giants, the developers behind Farming Simulator, and so they were looking for a new marketing trainer to announce the new version of the game, and which was quite cool actually because we have a lot of freedom about the script and what we wanted to do in the trailer. I mean, the main objective they had was to really convey the emotion behind the passion of farming. So it applies to the gamer of the game, but also to the real farmer. So it was a kind of our narrative thread to develop the script. And obviously, if you are looking to talk about emotion, you are going to rely a lot on characters. So that's what we have done. We have created a story that revolve around these two main characters. You have two farmer. One is an older one, and it's the father, and one is a younger one, and she is a daughter. So with these two characters, we need to convey emotion. There is also a lot of talking, and that's what leads us to think about digital doubles and also to think about what is the best solutions to capture real talent performance.
So you've kind of ended up with using DI4D's equipment and tech and so on. So can you explain why did you make this choice? And then maybe Louis can talk a little bit about how the tools were used in this project.
I think when the script was greenlighted, so obviously we put it in a lot of challenging sequence because of the emotion that needs to be subtle, because of the talking, and the goal of the project was to be realistic as much as possible. Farming Simulator is a simulation game, so obviously the trailer need to look as real as possible. So starting from here, we try to seek we look for the best solutions, and quickly DI4D and came as probably one of the best because of the past work and the technologies that we're using. And we were in a context where we have the digital character's face will going to be exactly the same that the talent who are going to perform during motion capture. So it was like the best case scenario to use the I4D technology and services, because they have a lot of skills, and Lewis is going to explain.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was a great project for us. As you say, it was digital doubles, really kind of focusing on the performance, and that's, I suppose, what we think we do best. So it was a kind of HMC project. So we used our head-mounted camera systems. Obviously, COVID made travel pretty difficult, so we weren't able to come and supervise the actual capture session ourselves. So we'd previously worked with a company called Mocap Lab in Paris, or a motion capture studio, and we provided them with some sort of online training and using our head-mounted camera system. So, we did the same thing again for this Capsule project. We sent our HMC to Mocap Lab, and they were sort of in charge of capturing all of that data.
So tell us a little bit, because maybe listeners are not really aware of DI4D's kind of offering and the stuff that you're doing, because I think they saw a lot of times where the technology was used, but it would be nice if you kind of explain where was it used, because I know it was like in Death, Love and Robots and a lot of other places where like a lot of very fleshy, like human digital humans, right? But if you could give us a little bit examples and explain what does your product include? Like, is there the hardware systems like for capture and animation? Is there also like the software? And also maybe you can talk a little bit about how it works so people would, be aware.
Sure, yeah. I suppose we are a service provider, so a client will get in touch with us, and they'll be looking for some high quality facial animation, and we provide basically the kind of full pipeline from capture, the actual acquisition of the data, right through to the delivery of the animation itself. We've got, I suppose, 3 different sort of pipelines that we use to deliver that data. The first involves using what we call our Pro camera system, and that's a kind of more traditional sort of seated booth, which you've maybe seen before. An actor or actress sits in front of an array of cameras, and we capture their performance like that. That has its benefits. We're able to capture with higher resolution cameras, and we're able to capture more of the face just because of the nature of the sort of hardware itself. But there's no kind of freedom of movement there. So for the Farming Simulator project, we use our head-mounted camera system. So that's 2 machine vision cameras on a helmet. And given that it's just those 2 cameras, the coverage isn't quite as good as our Pro system, but what it does allow for is the freedom of movement. So the actor or actress can interact with other members of the cast, and we can capture body motion capture at the same time, and audio, and that sort of freedom allows for all of those things to be synchronized really nicely, and sort of adds to that the realism of the final product. And then we've got a fairly new pipeline, which is called Pure 4D, and that sort of marries the best of both worlds there. We use the head-mounted camera system to drive data that we've captured with our Pro system, so we get the freedom of movement and also the high resolution and the sort of high fidelity. Typically that sort of makes more sense for larger scale projects. So for this Farming Simulator one, it was fairly small. I think we delivered about 75 seconds of facial animation. So the head-mounted camera system, along with Mocap Lab capturing the body motion capture, seemed to be the ideal solution.
So,
For us, as it was
Go ahead.
one of our biggest and first project involving both body motion capture and facial motion capture, it was more convenient to have a system that allow us to do everything at the same time. So you are on the motion capture studio and you are recording the body, the face, and also the voice. So everything is synchronized, and it's not, I mean, you are not adding complicated step to resynchronize everything later, because at one time you made the body, then you made the facial, etc. So it was quite the most convenient solution. And as Lewis said, it was during our time of COVID. So anyway, we were not able to travel so easily.
So how did the actors like using this kind of equipment?
Of course, it's a bit strange to have a camera with in front of your eyes. Actually, one of the two actors, the male one, which is Dominic, he had a lot of experience in motion capture. He worked for many video games, so for it was quite okay for him. I mean, it was used to that. For Anaïs, which is playing the woman, it was her first motion capture job, so I guess everything looked like science fiction for her. But there is a HMC helmet, but you are also putting a motion capture bodysuit, so
there's trackers everywhere, dots and everything, and camera in front of your face and so on.
A big empty room with people looking at you, so it's a bit strange anyway. But actually, it was quite okay. I mean, the content of the trailer don't imply very dynamic actions, so it was not like the HMC helmet could disturb the actors, and we like to brief them as much as possible before the shooting about why we are using that and what is the purpose of each gear, so that they understand all the process. We try also to find some time to find the good setup for everything on them, and so they feel comfortable and they can focus on their performance. So honestly, it was really not an issue.
So can you kind of describe the flow from start to finish? Because one of the goals that we are trying to educate people about new tools and how they can streamline the production, make it easier and faster and so on. So if you could kind of explain like what were like the main steps of how you went through this journey of capturing the animations, cleaning them up, integrating them into the game and so on.
So from receiving the brief from the client to the final delivery, I think the project took about 5 months to produce. So initially you have a pre-production stage, which is very important. So we are writing the script, then we are making a storyboard to have everything clear with everybody. But when this stage is completed, the first task for us was to cast the talents, because the real human were going to drive the character creation, because we are going to scan their face, and they are also going to drive the animation, because we are going to capture the performance. So it was the first main task was really to find the two good actors, and then, well, generally speaking, I think you can say that we have like 5 main teams that work across a project. You have the pre-visualization team, which is in charge of setting the staging of the trailer. So based on the storyboard and the motion capture data, they create the first iteration of all the shots and the editing, and they lock all the camera moves. So we have a kind of golden storyboard, which is in 3D. Everything is very rough at this moment because we are not using the final characters or the final environment, and it's rough data from the motion capture. But at least you have, you have all your shots, you have all your trailer, and you know if it's working or not regarding the staging of the trailer and the intentions. So it's one of the biggest part actually. And then you have also the character team that will create the final digital version of every characters and make them possible to move. You have the animation team, which is in charge of everything about motion. So, even if you are capturing the performance of real actors, there is a lot of works, and Lewis know about that, to polish, correct, and clean everything. So and also there is some stuff that you need to do in keyframe animation because it doesn't exist. For example, during our motion capture session, we are not recording everything about the ends. So that's something that need to be done.
And when you're combining, when you're combining keyframe and capture, how do you make sure that it's all kind of like organic and that there's like no disconnect, or no uncanny valley?
That's the talent of the artist we are working with, to be honest. But from when we are looking to the previs, we see the raw motion capture data, so we try to identify what need to be corrected. Sometimes it's very obvious, and sometimes it's much more subtle. And sometimes you also want to escape from the motion capture data because you want to exaggerate something or reduce something that looks like an error, even if it's real, but it doesn't look good, through your camera angle or something like that. So yeah, there is a lot of work and a lot of talent behind the animation, even when it's drive a lot by the performance capture. Besides that, there is the effect team. So they are taking care of every visual effect. So it could be closed simulation, smoke, particles, anything. And we have a bunch of that in the farming simulator trailer. And finally, you have the environment and lighting team. So they are basically creating every settings you are seeing. They are lighting everything, rendering the shots, and making the final color grading of the whole trailer. So I'm simplifying a lot, but.
And what kind of tech were you using for the trailer itself? Did you assemble it in like a real-time engine, or did you use something like, I don't know, like V-Ray or Redshift? How was the final product rendered and assembled?
No, the trailer is pre-calculated. So we are not using a real-time engine. At Capsule, we are using 3ds Max as main 3D software, and V-Ray is our main rendering engine. We have a long experience of work with V-Ray, and when the goal is to look for something as realistic as possible, for us it's the best rendering engine we know.
Lewis, I kind of have a question for you. So the content that you get from DI4D and the service that you're providing, how is it used? Is it only used for like film CGI mostly, or do you have examples of it being used and maybe adapted to like real-time graphics and AAA games or something?
I think a lot of the kind of film work that we do is, perhaps for CGI face replacements, where an actor or actress is, going to have to sit in front of our pro system and recreate something that their stunt double has perhaps performed earlier in the production, and the production company or the visual effects house that we work with will take that performance and do a face replacement using the animation that we provide. Recently, we worked on the Formula One Rivals in-game cinematics with Real-Time UK. For that project, they actually rendered everything inside Unreal Engine. However, it wasn't real-time; it was pre-rendered. But in the sort of build-up to that, we did do various tests with the data that we provided them with, and we were sort of able to confirm that the animation that we delivered for that project would have been able to run in real time. I think for the farming simulator project, we delivered vertex caches. So those were in alembic format. They contained the vertex positions for every single frame of the performance, for the character's face and also their eyeballs. More recently, we've kind of developed a jaw solver too, so we're able to provide teeth. I suppose alembic caches are maybe a little bit too heavy to run in real time. The file sizes are typically quite big, and there's a lot of information in there. So some applications will require that we deliver those alembic caches, but the client might compress them using a constrained rig. They'll take that animation and drive a rig with it. And that,
yeah, but I guess that kind of kills the whole purpose of having this like very high level capture that you can use.
How well the rigs model to the likeness of the actor or actress. For this project, as Stéphane mentioned, they had scans of both of the casts, so there's no ambiguity there for us about how that face should look. The volume of the head, the volume of the actual face itself, and that allows us to sort of, I guess, sanity check ourselves when we're delivering the animation. When you've got a rig that maybe an artist has sculpted and tweaked to maybe match some kind of artistic direction.
So I kind of have a question for you guys. So from the perspective of a smaller company who's kind of looking at the animation solutions out there, do you think DI4D's product is something that's kind of like for everyone, or is it more like for very niche situations where you kind of need to, have a lot of information in your scans and have a lot of capture information and that kind of stuff? So if you're like a mid-tier studio and you're doing your, whatever horror game or something and you want to release, or you want to doing your online product and you want to create like a nice cinematic for you, would you kind of recommend using this solution, or maybe try something different? Because I know that a budget in a lot of cases is a big concern. So it would be nice to know, like, where does your product kind of stand in that direction as well?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say our product's for like the kind of consumer. It's not for like a hobbyist or anything like that. We're definitely more geared towards the higher end stuff, bigger productions, and I mean, I guess for us it's all about trying to create the most believable and accurate facial animation that we can. So, if that's in the brief, then we'll obviously do our best to try and help out and accommodate that. I'm not really sure how best.
Yeah, I guess you kind of answered yes, so that's fine. So overall,
which is I think it's maybe 15 years I'm working in the industry. If I come back 15 years back, I can't even think that a company like Capsule Studio, because actually I think maybe about 20 people work on the project, so it's not like we are a huge animation studio, and 20 people not even at the same time during the whole production, but at different time. I can't imagine 15 years back that a small studio like us will be able to access this kind of technology and result. It's the kind of stuff you could imagine to, huge studio with the money from feature film. But even if obviously DI4D is not a service for hobbyists, I feel like the technology to reach this kind of realism is now more and more accessible. So
yeah, I think you're right. It's definitely, I feel like technology is kind of catching up with where we are as a company. It's becoming easier to do this sort of, I guess, realism and type of project without being massively computationally expensive. And we obviously try and do as much as we can to be as efficient as possible. And and therefore, you know, allow for that to make its way to companies, I suppose.
I also like the like you mentioned that it was a very short time. It was like 5 months, so it wasn't like you had like a couple of years to go over every detail and so on. So I guess having that solution and being able to get all the data possible in a very short amount of time, very accurately, is super important. And that's why I was saying like maybe mid-tier companies would be interested in using it, because although I understand that it's maybe not for like a 1-2 people team, but if you're 20 people, if you're 30 people, even if you're 50 people, very often you don't have the resources to go and like, you know, do your own motion capture studio or do like very heavy stuff at home. So that's when services like that can really come in handy and kind of help you elevate the product and make more sales at the end. So to kind of wrap up, how did you feel about this partnership? Like, what were like the main things that were done right, and how did it help you overall, like, to achieve the results that you wanted?
Well, on my side, I mean,
yeah, it's basically, Stéphane, it's a question for you mostly.
I mean, you know, when you work so hard and on a project, it's difficult to be fully satisfied. I mean, there is always something to improve, and it's just that you need to stop because of some reason. But to be honest, I'm quite amazed by the result of the work of our team and from the team of DI4D. We felt they were a good choice, and we were right on this one. I'm not sure that if we followed a different option about the facial animation, which would be to create a very complex facial rig with hundreds of different plane shape, I think the result would have been more expensive and probably less accurate. So on our side, we are fully happy with our partnership with DI4D and the result we got on the character performance and how they are looking in CGI.
Yeah, I think that feeling's mutual. I mean, we'd obviously seen a bunch of the work that Capsule had done prior to working on this project with them, and you know, when we got the call to work on Farming Simulator, it was obviously pretty exciting for everybody. The brief for the project was like, it was totally up our street. It was digital doubles, which is what we're always kind of pushing people to do. It was, you know, capturing the performance that the actors and actresses delivered, which is again something that we're really, you know, trying to push for companies that we work with to do.
I kind of have to ask you, with the announcements from like Facebook and all those other companies doing, you know, Nvidia and so on, about the metaverse and all that stuff, do you feel like the demand for digital double is going to increase? Do you feel like we're all going to start walking around with cameras under our eyes so they can capture every wrinkle or stuff? Or how do you, like, I'm joking obviously, but how do you think it's going to develop in the future? Do you think we're going to see more of these capture solutions? Do you think they're gonna, you know, evolve into something smaller and so on?
On my side, to be honest, when we are talking about metaverse, I'm still not sure about what we are talking about, but it means a lot of things for I'm not sure I have the right definition, but what is sure is that more and more stuff are becoming as much important in the digital space than in the physical space. So it applies to video games, it applies to work, it applies to many stuff. So I feel that everything involved in the digital creation are going to take more and more importance in the future, and it involves also our work and the work of the DI4D and every digital artist actually. So yes, I don't see a future where it's becoming less important, at least, and in any cases, in our position of creating a short film, what is really awesome with the fact to capture, having the solutions to capture real humans' performance is you are changing a bit your work philosophy, because you are, during the production process, escaping for being behind a computer screen, and you have to deal with real people. You have to brief them about your intentions, and it's something much more spontaneous and organic, and it really brings value to what you are going to do. At least if your project objective is to be realistic, which is not the case of everyone, so it doesn't always apply. But for us in this situation, it was the case.
And for sure, you kind of have to shoot it as though it's a movie as well. It's all about capturing the actual performance instead of getting halfway there and being able to fix it in post, as they say.
Yeah.
So, can you guys tell us, like, when do you think we'll see this line between the digital double and a real person in films completely blurred? When do you think we won't be able to see how the animation between being captured on camera and being captured within digital tools, when we are not going to see any difference?
I think it's a game. There is a bit of time before you are completely lost between what is real and what is not, obviously. But what is sure is that the fact that the technology is much more accessible for everybody, and everybody can reach a better result than before. It's also an opportunity to be a bit more creative. So if you know that you have a game or a project where you need to have digital double with realism, it's not so much a pain in the ass than 10 years ago. So you can also focus on other stuff that will make the difference. That's what is cool, and I think that's what is cool for every artist. I mean, as much as the tools are getting less complicated on the technical side, but there's still a lot of complications, but still it's less complicated. It's bringing much more people into this work, and it brings also much more idea, because there is a kind of barrier of technology and complication that is fading little by little. So I think it's cool for that.
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for your time. We'll add all the links in the description so people can check out, and be sure to check out the trailer itself, because it's pretty awesome. It's like Super Bowl kind of thing. So we really enjoy it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your comments.
The behind the scene also, I think, on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so if you were a bit more, you will see my face again a bit, but there is nice behind the scene about each part of the creation. So
awesome. We'll definitely add that as well. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very
Bye,
much.
guys. Bye, Lewis.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Thanks for enjoying another episode of the 80 Level Roundtable podcast. Check out upcoming episodes on the 80 Level website at 80.lv. Join our career site at 80.lv/RFP. And share our podcast with friends and on your social networks.